X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm the bad boy of X-Men podcasting, Zach Jenkins. Hi Adam, how are you?
Hi, Sugar.
Sugar! Like the System of the Down song.
We have done a Rogue episode within recent memory, but this
Have
one's
we?
this is
Hold
a
on.
much.
Have we?
Oh yeah, remember all those early Rogue stuff where she fought Dazzler and?
Oh, we did.
Yeah, we absolutely did.
That's right. And
This
yet
episode's way weirder.
we have not talked about any of the Rogue solo stuff besides the Waringo one.
That's true. That's true.
And
Well,
we won't. We continue to not talk about the time that she got Sunfire powers.
What powers?
Or about Rogue's actual mom and her secret family. You know about that one, right?
Yes. Yep. Oh boy.
What about Rogue Volume 2? Retelling of her origin that does not make any sense and does use X-Men Evolution Rogue design on the cover.
Wild. It's okay. We can pick what we want to pick to cover on this show as long as it's not what the listeners picked. Zach, what did the listeners pick this week?
Well, listener Snicked and Thwips,
Great.
which
name.
I don't think is their Christian name.
That'd be awesome if that was on the birth certificate.
I mean, that's...
What if the last name is Thwips and like first name is Snicked and middle
Snicked.
initial is just N? That'd be pretty
I
rad.
mean, like, Snick Nicholas Thwips is going to have a hard time getting some things through like a screening for their job.
Yeah. A lot
I
of
think
confused people at the passport office for Snicked and Thwips.
They wanted us to talk about Uncanny X-Men 171, and we're happy to oblige on that. Snicked and Thwips did the right thing and went over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom, reached deep down into their hearts and pocketbooks, tossed a couple of coins into our coffers. It's $5. Y'all, comics are expensive now. Just buy one comic, and that comic being the hour of me and Adam speaking at you. You get episodes early, too.
Mm-hmm. Get that early Boda Boy action in your weekend inbox, you know?
Don't you want
need in your life?
Don't you want that Boda boost before everyone else does? You know, people are going to walk up to you and say, you know, I've noticed something different about you. And that's going to be your opportunity to share your conversion experience with them about how you became an early Boda boy or girl or non-binary person.
Yeah.
Like we're inclusive here, but it's just, we're both inclusive and love alliteration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To start off, we're going to talk about this issue that is an interesting one because it is from the Ashes trade paperback that I think a lot of people know very, very well. But even though it is smack dab in the middle of the Paul Smith era, it is not drawn by Paul Smith. It is drawn by one Mr. Walt Simonson.
You know, they don't make fill-ins like they used to.
They don't make fill-ins like they used to. Would you consider this a fill-in?
I would consider going between two Paul Smith classics to a Walt Simonson issue just kind of in the middle of this. Yeah, I'd call it kind of a fill-in from an artist standpoint.
Yeah, but this is
it's legendary artist and writer Walt Simonson.
Yeah, with Bob Wyacek on inks. I mean, not bad, right? You know,
Glennis is doing the colors. Claremont's writing it. Y'all know that part. Wheezy's editing this one.
Yes, she is Louise Jones at this point in her career. And folks, if you have not checked out Jean Grey #1, let me tell you, Louise Simonson still got it. Let me tell you.
Hey, it's wild, actually. Hold on. Let's pause this. It's bizarre to me because we've seen a lot of creators who have a little bit of rust on them come back and do the weird nostalgia minis that Marvel keeps not selling. And I feel like what Louise Simonson's doing is saying, hey, look, you want me to write all of my old stuff? I could write my old stuff. I did those New Mutants and X Factor tie-in things. Or you could hire me to write something that like is good and very interesting case study on Jean Grey, and I have no idea how the Jean Grey fans are taking it. Not the normal ones. I'm talking about the Jean Grey fans.
No, they like it. Yeah.
Do they? Because Jean Grey is messy in it.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway, we'll come back to that later. But
will we? I think that's the last we're going to talk about the Jean Grey series. It's pretty good.
Well, I'm going to hype something up later. But we've got Uncanny 171 here, which starts with Storm having, taken over charge of the Morlocks and is really having a crisis of faith about what her status is. Is she an X-Man? Is she, this Morlock queen? Who is Storm? So we're having some identity issues there.
What is this? Every Storm comic between 1991 and hold on. When was Al Ewing? When did Al Ewing take over Storm? It's 2021?
Yeah, probably 21. Yeah.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No,
Tell me I'm wrong.
Storm always figuring herself out. We get some great Maddie and Scott stuff happening here, where Scott is realizing that Maddie's plane crash is the same day that Jean Grey was killed on the moon, which is fun.
I know that Claremont's intention was not that Madeline Pryor was a clone of Jean, but also he's laying it on a little thick.
Yes. If he didn't mean for us to think it, he sure is trying pretty hard not to convince us.
It's hard not to look at this and not saying that Cyclops is right in this particular situation, because he's been proven to be, well, actually, history has proven him to be oddly right, which is he's not supposed to be right in this. But also it's like, I can see why Scott Summers is having a hard time accepting that this identical redhead is, how do you say, not the reincarnation of someone who was named Phoenix.
Yes. Now, despite a slight detour into a follow-up on the Magic miniseries, which involves a Danger Room scenario with Belasco, the rest of this issue is all about Rogue, who has been a villain to the X-Men and to Dazzler in the past, basically showing up at the front door saying, hey, my powers are out of control. Can I join the team? Can you help me? And the X-Men, not super happy about this, especially because Professor X is totally fine with it.
Professor X is completely and utterly cool with this.
Yeah.
And it's interesting in my mind because the X-Men do have a long history of like hanging out with bad guys and having them turn and join their team. You see them continuing to try this. And it really is something that Xavier is like a big believer of. No, we can rehabilitate these people. We can help them out. He keeps trying it, failing sometimes. He probably shouldn't have had to. He probably shouldn't have tried to rehabilitate Mr. Sinister on his weird sex island. I think, Charles, that was a mistake.
Yeah. Or maybe, Sabretooth in the 90s. But
the Sabretooth thing with, yeah.
But the first example that he gives here is a good one, which is, hey, we figured a Wolverine out, and you sort of did. You know what I mean? Like
Wolverine was just like a jerk. He wasn't evil.
He was like a Canadian assassin, but you made him a team player, but he is still a killer. Like, I don't think we really fixed him, quote unquote. But anyway,
they fixed his costume. Shoot.
Yeah. Rogue is feeling lots of guilt about what happened with Carol Danvers. So who shows up but Binary, Carol Danvers, who punches Rogue into space.
Okay, listen. That page turn, Walt, is on another level. Because
can we just talk about the art there for a second? Like, Rogue's chin is as close to the bleed line as it can possibly get without getting chopped off by the printer. She is popping out of that panel so hard.
And it's a page turn. You don't see the punch. That's the beauty of it. Simonson shows you that, oh no, Carol is walking into a room with Rogue, who is a teenager. and saying, oh, on site. It is on site. Punches her into the stratosphere. Carol now has binary powers, which are great. So they do a little bit of a fight, and then Charles is like, hold up. We're going to take care of her. Carol reasonably says, cool, don't want to hang out with you guys anymore. It's been a fun little bit, but I am not doing that.
I'm not like a Cub Scout. I'm getting out of here.
I think Carol is making some valid points.
No kidding.
That Charles was letting Carol live at his house, and then he was like, hey, here's this person that caused you all of this trauma. That's the reason why you're living in this house. I'm going to take care of her, too, at the same time. That's one of those you have a conversation first. You don't spring that on somebody.
Rogue did surprise them, and he did not know that Binary was coming back. But the one character
made his decision real quick.
Yeah, but he's going off of his principles, and another person sort of still debating her principles at the end of the story is again Storm. Storm is saying, well, I'm not quite sure I can forgive this person who tried to kill me at the Pentagon, and I got to take a walk. So she's just trying to figure everything out. This issue is interesting because it is a hope you survive the experience cover, right? Which is a trope in X-Men. And it is squeezed between like two all-time classic Paul Smith things that rank very high on our big old list. So I'm interested to see where this lands.
So you mentioned our big old list, and thank you. In fact, Adam, thank you for bringing up said big old list, because it is big, it is old, and it is a list. Those are three of its defining qualities.
That's true.
Now,
yeah.
The thing about this big old list is that we are ranking every X-Men story from best to worst on there. We have 810 stories on this list right now, with the first best story being the House of X, the Powers of 10, the 100th being Wolverine, the Shiva scenario, the 200th being X-Termination, the one with an E at the front, not an X at the front, the 300th being Cable 64, 'Twas the Night Before Dying, the 400th being the Age of X Aftermath from X-Men Legacy, the 500th being the Psylocke miniseries, 600th being X-Men versus the Brood, 700th being Time Storm 700th being Time Storm 2009/2099 X-Men, 800th being Witchblade Wolverine. That's the time Witchblade and Wolverine get married that Chris Claremont wrote.
It's terrible.
810 is the worst X-Men comic of all time. 2099 World of Tomorrow, a comic that they are too scared to print in the X-Men 2099 omnibus. I like to feel like we had something to do with scaring them into that, saying, you guys can print X Nation 2099, but don't you dare print 2099 World of Tomorrow again.
I thought you would appreciate that. I mean, I realize there's
Thank you for sharing that.
There's only so many pages you can pack into an omnibus, and if you're packing the entire X-Men 2099 and all of the extras in there plus X Nation at the end, I get it. Why you can't fit like, what is it, 6 oversized issues of utter trash?
8 oversized issues.
Yeah, I get why you didn't put that at the end, but it is still really funny that they did put X Nation in there and then stop.
They should put it in an oversized hardcover. Have it put out
with a slip case.
Put out all of the Omnibuy of 2099. Give us our Ravage. Give us our Doom. Give us all the Omnibuy, and then say, and here's the deluxe oversized hardcover 2099 World of Tomorrow, so that you can wrap up that, or you can make it a 2099 Never the End, where you have World of Tomorrow, and then you have every other 2099 thing to happen afterwards.
Sounds great.
I think it's great.
Yeah. So also great are the stories that come before and after Uncanny 171. At 10 on our list is 169 to 170, which is Storm and Callisto's duel. And right underneath that at 11 is the issues that come after this, 172 to 173, Wolverine's
Not
wedding.
as good. Not as good.
This is nowhere near.
This story is not as good.
No.
Where's Professor Xavier is a jerk, because this is worse than that.
Yeah. Oh boy.
That's 168.
Yeah.
We've got it. Do we not have 168 on here?
Hold on. I can check.
Honestly, I wouldn't be that shocked if we did it. Brood Saga's at 32. This isn't that good either.
I think this is definitely a top 200 story just in terms of its, its classic status. But hold on, I'm checking if 168 is on.
It's not, bud.
It's not. We have not done that one. I'm checking.
Hey, just that comic, pretty good.
Yeah. But I'm working my way up from 200. I think this is.
I've got one that will, I think, draw a line in the sand for you.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
This is probably better than Ladies' Night, right?
Yeah, I think so. Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's at 134, but I don't think it's as good as a Mojo Mayhem at 126.
Then let's put it.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. Let's put it below Marvel Team Up 150 and above X-Men Second Coming.
Oh, that's a good place for it. All right. So this is going to be our new 128. And, Walt, if you're listening, Walt Simonson, don't be offended. Hey,
Walt Simonson,
you're a genius. We love you. But,
Well, I was thinking about your Thor earlier today and nothing important. Just be like, man, that Walt Simonson's Thor runs real good. Entirety of my thoughts.
Yeah.
I read the first that Beta Ray Bill arc with my son, and he was enthralled. He decided that Beta Ray Bill has to say every time, my name is, they call me Bill. Beta Ray Bill. We then read the Daniel Warren Johnson Beta Ray Bill series.
Oh, that's like wrestling. Yeah, that's fun. All right, so we're going to make actually a pretty drastic time jump here. We're going from classic Claremont and Simonson from the Ashes era to Carey and Chris Bachalo. This is Red Data, X-Men 197 to 199.
This is collected in the Supernovas trade, the big oversized Supernovas things they got, which is great. Mm-hmm. Carey Bachalo. It is a direct follow-up to the arc before that, Primary Infection, where Rogue gets infected with a virus. Yes. She's not doing good. So they take Rogue to the doctors on Cable's Utopia Island that he has.
Providence.
Adam, do you always forget about Providence? Because I always forget about Providence.
I completely forgot about it. I think God, has it really been since Burnt Offering that we have talked about Providence? Like, it's been a while, right?
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah.
Providence, oddly, it's around for Cable and Deadpool, and Nicieza never gives it the space it needs to be what it is.
I was surprised because I didn't remember that it was like this expansive of a society. And like, this is talking like it's Epcot, like this is like a utopian futuristic thing. It's pretty fun. I also do love that the X-Men at this point are, is this the Children of the Vaults battleship that they're floating around in?
Oh, the Conquistador? Yeah, they stole that at the end of Supernovas.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun.
It's that good page with Rogue putting on her hood and her insane team of X-Men getting onto the ship, and she's like, "We're gonna do things our way, sugar."
So
let's remind people what this team is. Can we remind them what this team is? Because if you guys haven't read, if you haven't thought about Supernovas in a while, remember this lineup. It's Cable.
Yep.
It's Rogue. It's Iceman. It's Cannonball. These are all normal X-Men characters.
Let's get crazy, man. Let's get crazy.
The Omega Sentinel's here. Sabretooth's here. Mystique's here. Lady Mastermind is here.
Oh, that's not Emma Frost? I kid. Chris, you like that outfit a little too much.
As some podcasts would describe it, the Chris Bachalo top is one of the most important pieces of fashion in X-Men history.
Sure. Gravity defying.
Insane that Emma and Lady Mastermind were in Bendis's All New at the same time wearing the exact same outfit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty wild. So we have this group, they're bringing everybody back. Sabretooth is imprisoned on the ship because they think he's a terrible person. It's not working so well. Now,
Hold on,
Lady
they don't think he's a terrible person. He's Sabretooth.
Oh,
That's
he
why they
is.
have him imprisoned.
He is, but he was like on the team for the previous issues, but like they don't trust him, so they got him like bottled up, you know. So
I'd like to posit that they never really trusted Sabretooth, but let's go on.
yeah. So somehow, and this is a little unclear to me, Lady Mastermind in a psych session with therapist unwittingly unleashes a Mumudrai.
Yeah.
You
You're
remember
talking about
like Cassandra Nova, a Mumudrai?
You're talking about F.T.L. Arisen.
Sure.
He's a Shi'ar Mumudrai.
Yes, and we think that the Mumudrai is the villain of this arc, because you know he's jumping from X-Men to X-Men. However,
also because he's a Mumudrai, which are the anti-self, the shadow self, the all that is wicked and evil in a person. And the only other one we've seen is Cassandra Nova, and she's bad.
Yeah. We've been warned by the Shi'ar that these Mumudrai are not to be messed with. However, Hecatomb. How do you say
Hecatomb?
Hecatomb?
It's gotta be Tomb.
Listen, Hecatomb is our real villain here, and that's actually why the Mumudrai is here, is to warn us about the Hecatomb, which is going to come and basically like eat our entire world. It is an out of control weapon that was designed to, I don't know, eat worlds. It's going to
it absorbs life energy. Yeah, it's insane.
It's really insane. It's a disco ball that has like a ghost xenomorph around it. It's psychotic looking.
There's a couple of things about the art in this that are insane. Love Chris Bachalo. I know what he's trying to do with the Mumudrai stuff and Hecatomb, and I think it's a little too abstract for what he's and alien for what he's trying to do here.
I disagree.
The other thing,
yeah, go ahead.
Let me do my other one, and then we'll jump right back to it. The other thing is, man, it's always a good time when people use some of the lossiest JPEGs in the world for backgrounds instead of just coloring it blue.
Yes.
Insane that it happens. Go back to the other digital stuff that's happening.
Let's go back to the art for a second, okay? This story is a mess, and I don't necessarily think that it's actually coherent very much and or well written. However, I do not care because this art kicks butt. It is so cool. The Mumudrai is represented by these like scratchy, scrawly lines, right? But they don't have contour lines. They're all just colored blue. So they're overlays over the black and white outlines of the characters. And then like not only is this ghost-like Hecatomb thing sort of like fading in and out in its opacity, but it also is filled with like the ghosts of everything it ever ate. So there's pages of like these walls of dead zombie people coming at the character. It's so cool.
It's just Chris is really having fun with the opacity levels of his layers right now. He's like, and 75% and 25% and like, let's just go. We are all middle sliders right now.
It is awesome. And I don't even care that like I don't know what Red Data is. I have
no idea what Red Data is.
I don't really know what's wrong with Rogue. I just know that she's
from the last arc. She's sick.
Yeah, I've read that. I just like they don't explain what's wrong with her, but she like comes
because you could have just read the 3 comics that came directly before it.
Yeah, and I've read those. I just like, we don't really. Anyway, she comes in and she solves the situation because she can absorb all of the ghosts that are in the Hecatomb so that they can destroy the disco ball, right?
And that's when Rogue has 1 billion people inside of her brain.
Yes, which you would think might drive her insane. This also features a very I can't get behind Mystique and Iceman. Like, what is that about? That's weird.
Listen, of all the things in Supernovas that I love, that's the one where I'm like, Because, Mike, you're being very explicit in this, like shockingly explicit for 2007 about how Mystique went crazy when the person she loved most in the world, Destiny, died.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you doing, though?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It just doesn't work.
Take the retcon of Iceman being gay out of this for a second. It does. He's trying something and he's failing really hard at it with this particular relationship.
Yep, I agree.
What does work is Omega Sentinel and Cannonball absolutely wrecking things.
Yep.
They
Cannonball is awesome in this.
Lady Mastermind is so much fun. Mm-hmm. Reagan is easily the superior Lady Mastermind.
Yeah, she's a lot
Cable's
of fun.
I like a lot of the energy in this book, even if this arc it struggles to have a plot.
It's it's like oddly overcomplicated and also like undercooked. So, you know, I am enjoying this for the visual feast that these three issues are.
Adam, do you think it's wild that this comic has overlap and like is kind of a non-crossover with Cable and Deadpool?
Yes, there are other issues in now. Red Data is just 1, 2, 3, but there are other issues that are Cable and Deadpool that apparently involve this.
Yeah, it's what else is happening on the island with the Moma Dry and Sabretooth and all of that.
Yeah, we didn't read that though.
We didn't. It's breaking up Cable and Deadpool. The arc is called Fractured, which has to happen because Cable has to die. Die the way Cable always dies.
Yeah,
folks. Cable's the least dead character to ever exist.
Never have to worry about Cable actually being dead. A new one will come by in a couple minutes, right? So yeah, I enjoyed this quite a bit, but I can't praise the writing of it as much as I'm just like, I'm in it for what Chris is doing here. He's like, he is on fire, you know? Every single page is just an absolute and energetic. I don't know. There's just a lot going on. He's killing it here.
So how do you feel about it compared to the 2007 X-Men annual? That is from this run. It's the Mark Brooks one, Exodus. Trying to prove that there are still mutants out there.
And what number do we have that at?
324.
Oh, I think this is higher than that.
I think this is higher than that. Supernovas is at 20. It's not that good.
Oh, no, it's not that high.
Is this...
This is tough because I love the art. I love it. But like the story is just kind of like, what? What is this? This is just stuff.
I don't think this is better than Dead Man Logan at 289.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. That's a better story.
And listen, the art in Dead Man Logan is nothing to complain about.
No, it's pretty dang good. I also think that Fatal Attractions, for its flaws, is, you know, has the higher highs. As an artist showcase, I would also put Hearts of Darkness above this at 297.
I'd rather read Man and Wolf. That's Cap Wolf. I'd rather read Cap Wolf.
Okay.
This is better than 299 right now, which is the Fear Itself stuff from Uncanny X-Men, because that has bad art.
I agree 100%. So this is going to be our new 299 X-Men 197 to 199 Red Data. If you are a Chris Bachelot fan, you gotta check these issues out. They're killer.
You know, I've been playing cards with my son, and I bought an X-Men deck somewhere, and it's mostly Chris Bachelot art.
Oh, I have that same exact deck. I'm almost positive. Does it have 2 decks of cards in it?
No, it's only 1 deck of cards.
Okay.
But it has heavily Bendis era art from Chris Bachelot and Stuart Immonen. Yep. A little bit of Gurihiru, a little bit of there's like 1 or 2 Frank Quitely pieces in there. And there's someone else, but it's a lot of Bachelot.
Yeah. The one I have is almost exclusively Chris and Stuart. So that's a fun one. Okay, so we've got 1 story left, and it is by far, that was a weird story, but this is by far the weirdest one we're going to talk about. And it again is by our friend Mr. Chris Claremont. What is this?
This is Chris Claremont and Igor Cordy. It's X-Treme X-Men 31 to 36. Intifada.
Oh boy.
There's two parallel stories happening here. Let's
Uh-huh.
take them in stride. Adam,
Hi.
let me have this.
Okay.
The first story, possibly the most insane one. Storm and Gambit are hanging out and spying on all of the leaders of the world, including and explicitly George W. Bush, to figure out if they're going to genocide all the mutants or not.
Yeah, and it's not just George. We've got very explicitly drawn Colin Powell, Dick Cheney. Don't think Rumsfeld is in the mix there, but I'm not sure.
This is September 2003. So if
Mhm.
you imagine the production timelines on comics, Chris wrote this immediately after he figured out about the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah, Department of Homeland Security is name dropped in this arc. So yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but Homeland Security was end of 2001, beginning of
Mhm.
2002 timeframe. The invasion wasn't until spring of 03 because they had weapons of mass destruction. Remember the
Right.
weapons that didn't exist
Ah,
and that we never
yes.
found, and
Oh, I remember.
that Saddam Hussein explicitly said, "You idiots! If I would have had weapons of mass destruction, I would have used them."
Oh boy. You were saying.
Storm and Gambit are checking out this. They do run into Val Cooper, Colonel Vajan, a bunch of other people, and they essentially become like mutant cops by the end of this. Like that's the deal that gets cut so that a genocide doesn't happen. Is that Storm says that she's not with Xavier right now, so her and her X-Men will police their own.
Which is kind of funny considering the next arc and what Storm actually does is go and join, like, the arena. And we saw how well that fared on this.
Friggin' love that Chris Claremont has no one telling him not to in this. Is it good? Not always. Is it
No,
fun? Yes.
can be.
The other side of this is in the LA suburb that Rogue and Gambit have been living in. Rogue being an auto mechanic going by Anna Raven with tattoos because her powers don't work right now. There was a domestic terror attack. A human tried to kill a bunch of mutants. And first it's let's stop this. And then Rogue is trying to understand this murderous bigot and figure out what happens. And it turns out what happened, and this is in my mind, like I did not put together the continuity pieces, especially the timing on this, but this is Claremont doing the same themes as Ride at Xavier's at the same time. Explicitly calling it out, but saying, look, these are the X-Men's generation fought for their place, and now there's a mutant society. So there's another generation that hasn't had to deal with any of that stuff, and maybe they don't understand what people had to deal with to like get where they are now. And it's a very interesting push and pull through a very 2003 Chris Claremont lens.
That is the most gracious reading you could have given this book, which is called the Intifada. Which, if listeners don't understand what the Intifada is, it is the word that is typically used for the Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip starting in 1987. So
that
it's
is
a
an insane title for this.
Really insane selection, Mr. Claremont, to call your story that is about gentrification of a neighborhood of humans into a mutant neighborhood. Oh my God. All right. So starting with that.
Hold on. I want to jump in here real quick and just say Chris Claremont has been on record to say he does not think that was a good thing and does not support that. And like, he knows what he's doing here though. Like,
oh, I'm sure Chris Claremont knows what he's doing. I'm not convinced it's a good idea what he is doing.
It's 2000, early 2000s Chris Claremont. No one's convinced it's a good idea, but I do think it's interesting.
So
I'm fascinated.
You're not wrong. We're actually getting visual clips. We're getting Frank Quitely images inside of Iger Cordy images of a slideshow from Val Cooper. Now, let's just address the Igor Cordy thing for a second before we actually get into how bad this story is. Okay. We give Igor Cordy a lot of crap for the fill-in. Well, it's not really fill-ins, for his issues in New X-Men because
Because
he was so pressed for time. And we know this
2
from
weeks, baby.
interviews
2
that
weeks.
He had very, very little time to generate the issues and get them to the printer. So I'm hopeful. And I think by the quality of the artwork we're seeing here, that he did have more time to generate the artwork for these issues.
I think Cordy looks great in this. I was actually flipping through some of his like Soldier X and Cable stuff from a couple years before this recently. Cordy looks awesome.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think this art is ugly.
Okay.
I don't like it at all. And
disagree there.
Don't think it serves the story at all.
I think it's ugly in the same way that I think Frank Quitely art is ugly.
No, there is a lack of. I don't know how how far I really want to go down the rabbit hole on this. I'm just going to stop and stop with subjective and just say, I don't think this is my cup of tea. Okay.
I think that's fair. Fair. I hear you and I understand you and I disagree on the art here. I think Cordy's actually doing some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
this is ugly and not in a quietly potato head way.
But also definitely in a bit of a quietly potato head way. These are potato people.
Yeah, but those potato people look beautiful at the same time as they're like lumpy potato people. You know what I mean? Like there's no. All right, I don't want to get into this. Let's jump over to the.
We're gonna do a Cordy marathon at some. I'm gonna set that up for one of my next Zach picks. Only Igor Cordy, and then we're gonna get into it.
I was thrown off by two things in this arc that just completely threw me out of the story. Okay. The first is obviously Chris Claremont is a very fetish forward, horny man, but we have characters that would never kiss smooching in some really weird ways. So, for example, we know that Rogue and Gambit are a couple. That's established at the beginning of the first issue. And yet, when Rogue sees some of her fellow X-Men, she not only kisses Bishop, which is weird, she jumps on him and straddles him like she was on The Bachelorette or The Bachelor, and like lamches onto him like she's a lamprey. Like it is the most, it's just gross. Similarly, we know that Storm enjoys being nude. That's established for, decades of continuity. However, she's bathing in the nude with Gambit and then decides that they also need to make out for some reason. Now, if I remember correctly, when Gambit met Storm, she was a child. This is weird.
Okay. I hear you here. I'm gonna make two counterpoints because I knew this was gonna come up. One, yes, Chris Claremont very horny. We all agree. But I think for Rogue, one, she has a long history of like just kissing people, normally to steal their powers, but like that's a thing Rogue does. That's pretty heavily established that she'll kiss darn near anyone. That's not a big deal to her. So while I think some of the art's a little extreme, though at the same time Rogue is being able to actually touch other humans for the first time since she was like 12 years old. So maybe she's overcompensating for some things. I think part of that is the story here. So I hear what you're saying, and I can see where the creative decisions come to have those things happen. The Storm thing, one, Gambit stopped knowing Storm as a kid pretty soon and then has just known her as a fully adult woman for a while. And two, you think that Gambit and Rogue don't throw a couple of key parties every once in a while, you're out of your gourd.
I don't know. It just seemed very, very strange in both circumstances. And it just seems like Claremont getting his rocks off. The second thing that really just threw me out of the story is that you mentioned these young, out of control punks that are the reason that the domestic terror incident happened in the first place was because
they got her family killed because they were being irresponsible with their powers. They were just they were teenagers joyriding and got into a drunk driving accident.
Exactly. Except they fly and they have spikes.
It's not that, but it's that.
Right. So
it's the equivalent.
We have this scene in issue 3 where Sam and Rogue go to confront these kids, and they sound like boomers. They sound like old grandpas, like chastising the youth for not being grateful for what their grandparents gave them. And it's just so out of character for both of them. It does not sound like Sam or Rogue. It sounds like an old crotchety man.
There is I've been like chewing on this for a little bit because there is one read of it, and it's the read you have, and I think it's an accurate read of this is Claremont doing a respectability politics, talking points. That's what this is. Like, it's, hey, we fought hard for this, so you need to respect this stuff. On the other hand, I also think it's Claremont doing something with mutants and saying, look, take the mutant metaphor stuff out of it and trying to put it one-to-one with anything. If there was a group of young people with insane powers and they're out of control, what does that mean? It's the part where, like, the fact that, hey, it is bad if someone can wake up and shoot laser beams out of their eyes uncontrollably. That's a issue. And you can put any real world marginalized group into that and muddle the thing, but there is a story to be told of, hey, it's bad if somebody wakes up and they can murder an entire town.
Sure.
Like, without even meaning to.
And
or how do you irresponsibly use these abilities?
Yeah, and those stories have been told time and time again, also by Claremont, way back all the way to God Loves Man Kills, and probably even before that, right?
Oh, hold on, wait, what did God Loves Man kill? God Loves Man, what? No, what?
I'm just saying,
God Loves Man Kills is
mutants as, like a horrible threat to mankind. It's not particularly new. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying it's new, but I am saying that actually digging into that and what that means for mutants as a community is new in this time.
I guess I think it can be interesting. I think it can be. I don't think it's very interesting here. There's no nuance to this story whatsoever. The punks are just punks. When our heroes show up, they're just these like crotchety one-liners about how we do it for real. And you bow down to your older generation. And it's like, what is this? Like Chris Claremont, who we just talked about.
I can tell you what it is, buddy.
Hold on. We just talked about Uncanny 171, where we have the dream, we have Xavier saying, hey, we understand that you've been a threat to us, but we're going to take you under our wing and we're going to try to, help you out. Here, that's not the solution. The solution is we're going to go out to the youth of America and we're going to beat them to a pulp and tell them that they're all like, the idiots. And I just, there's a tone to this book that I think just completely is in a different world from the Claremont X-Men that I am used to and that I like. And every time I revisit X-Treme, we've talked about Expose, we've talked about The Arena, we've talked about Destiny's Diaries, I think at some point. I hate it. I hate this book. I think it's ugly. I think the stories are poorly written. And I don't feel like these characters feel like the ones that we know and love.
Well, I think there's one thing that we have not talked about in the entire thing about this, which is why some of these characters from both sides, see, I'm going to be the enlightened centrist here. Both sides, Adam, are being flattened out.
Yes.
And do you know why?
Well, yes. Please.
It's Elias Bogan, baby. It's the not Shadow King.
Yes.
He's been trying to screw with his entire town for reasons. Adam, can you explain Elias Bogan? Because we aren't doing the main Elias Bogan arc, but can you explain Elias Bogan and how he's different than the Shadow King? Because I can't.
He's basically just like a rich guy who likes messing with people, isn't he?
He was the first Lord Imperial of the New York Hellfire Club.
Okay.
He's
basically the Shadow King. He's just not
the Shadow King.
Yeah.
In fact, whenever somebody does retcon Elias Bogan to just be part of the Shadow King, the stories will be better.
Would make a lot more sense. And it also would go back to just Chris Claremont wants to write Shadow King stories.
Chris Claremont just wants to write Shadow King stories, and he's the only one.
Yeah. So,
where was Shadow King right now? Was he still stuck in Betsy's brain after Psywar?
Oh, I don't know.
Actually. Oh, no, wait. No, because Psylocke dies. So Shadow King is in X-Treme X-Men Annual 2001.
Oh, okay.
Chris, why didn't you just write this as a Shadow King story?
I don't know. Pretty bonkers.
Also, Manacle is in this. Were you surprised to see Manacle in a comic like a week ago, Adam? Because I sure was.
What was Manacle in? What did it?
Marvel Voices X-Men.
Oh, yeah. I liked some of the voices. I thought there was some good stuff in there.
I thought what Al Ewing and Jay edited and wrote were fantastic.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff in there. Zach, I hated this. Like, I agree with you.
You did.
I agree with you that like it's the same thing with like the end, right?
I
like,
know it's the same thing at the end. I'm thinking about the end this entire friggin' time, waiting for the ranking.
Like, you can see Chris's galaxy brain like lighting up, and he's like, Homeland Security, gentrification of neighborhoods, you know, I'm horny. Like, all of his little like neurons are flashing in front of us, but it doesn't make for good storytelling. It's really bad.
Adam, this week when we were talking about new comics that came out, and you were talking in the Slack about how you're reading this Jean Grey book and you're a little confused by it, but there's a lot going on and you're pretty interested in it. What did I say? What was the only response I had? I said, let Wheezy cook.
Yes.
And I feel the exact same way right now, because I don't know if this is good or bad. It's probably bad, but I'm fascinated and I want to let Chris cook right now. Because I'm tired of boring stuff. I'm tired of boring comics. I am so done.
Yeah, I would argue this is pretty boring. Like it and here's why. Like, the end is not boring just because it's like it's so completely bananas, right? But this, like, it just feels so dated, and it feels like, you know, it feels like your grandfather at Thanksgiving. Like, it's not fun and enjoyable or entertaining, and I want nothing to do with it.
I don't know how there's a comic with Manacle in it that you're saying, oh, this isn't fun.
That's the definition? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, we got a lot of comics on our list without Manacle in them, Zach.
Folks, if you know anything about Manacle, it's that he's a oversized BDSM guy covered in chains who has the ability to do BDSM to you.
Yeah, with like barbed wire. It's really creepy. Again,
yeah, it's wild.
Fetish forward Chris Claremont. Let's rank this, because this sucks.
Where's X-Men The End? Book.
Saying as good as any of X-Men The End.
That's Adam, that's not true.
We think this is better than any of X-Men The End?
Yes. I think this is better than X-Men The End, Dreamers and Demons.
Which one is that? The first or the second one?
That's the first one. I think it's on par with the second one. I don't think it hits the heights of the third one.
No, I wouldn't. All right. So it's definitely worse than the third one. Where is the second one on the list?
The second one's at 676.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of talking about early 2000s Chris Claremont comics, is Adam gets mad and I'm defending them, but then when we get down to ranking, I'm like, it is still like not that great.
Yeah, it's bad.
But bad. I like it.
Better or worse than Poptopia?
That is an important question, because Poptopia has a lot of the same feelings around it.
Yeah, it's also garbage.
This is better because I don't think the B plot in Poptopia with the cleaner, who is going to be appearing in Steve Orlando's Iceman again. Folks, said it before and said it again. Me and Steve, we are on the same wavelength of what weird X-Men stuff we remember.
I do, because
when I read that the cleaner was there, some people thought it was Kenny Omega's alternate persona, and I thought, oh no, that's the guy from Poptopia. Duh, you fools.
I don't think this is as good as Wolverine Bad Rock at 650.
This is better than the Iceman Icons.
All right, so that makes it our new 651 Extreme X-Men Intifada. Oh, Chris.
Man, let Chris Claremont cook.
Listen, he can cook. I just don't want to eat.
Did you read his latest X-Treme X-Men series?
No.
Adam Reck.
That's my name. Co-host.
Buck Wild. Did you at least see the new outfit he gave Salvador Larroca gave Storm?
Listen, you just said everything I need to know not to read that book. It's Extreme X-Men. LaRocca is drawing it, and I'm out.
You want to know who the lead antagonist is?
Guessing it's the Shadow.
It's not.
Is it Elias Bogan? Is it Tolomor Rogue?
No, but you're so close. It's Ogun.
Oh God, please.
Who might as well be most of those characters.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Deep breath. That was a fun one. There's some weird stuff going on in this episode.
I had a great time.
Me too, man. I loved it.
Want to thank Snicked and Thwips If you want to be like Snicked and Thwips, there is a Patreon that you can go to.
Yeah, help us out. Get an episode.
Adam,
Get psyched.
Adam, what do you got going on?
Well, I mentioned Jean Grey earlier, and my lovely Anna Papard and I, we reviewed Jean Grey #1, which we both really liked. So go check that out over on comicsxf.com. We've got, what else? I don't know. I think that's
allergies. Do you have allergies? Because I have allergies. That's what I've got going on.
I feel like I've always got them a little bit. But
no, I only get them right now.
Yeah. But anyway, follow over on Blue Sky, Adam Rec, Adam.rec on Instagram, and whatever the heck Twitter is now, Arthur Stacy, for, previews of what's coming up next week and all that fun stuff. Zach, don't ever try and find Zach.
Don't find me. It's not fun. I don't enjoy it. You don't enjoy it. We weren't going to have a good time with it.
No. And what are we talking about next week, Zach?
Well, we're going to continue our Attitude Era. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
By talking about Amanda Sefton.
Ooh, we're going to do a little day tripping.
Day tripping, yeah. Till then, folks, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survive the experience.
Get it!